Welcome to Forever Tales, where every story lives on forever. The hum of the airport terminal filled the air as passengers lined up at Gate 42. Families clutched passports, business travelers scrolled through emails, and first-time flyers clung nervously to their boarding passes. Among the flight crew preparing for departure was Sarah Malik, a senior air hostess with 10 years of experience. Her calm smile and professional presence reassured passengers the moment they stepped on board. As boarding began, Sarah greeted each passenger warmly. "Welcome aboard, sir. Good evening, ma'am. This way to your seat." But once everyone was settled, she knew her most important duty was about to begin. Safety instructions. Too often, passengers treated the safety demonstration like background noise, scrolling on phones, adjusting seatbelts absent-mindedly, or chatting away. But Sarah believed differently. To her, every word of the guidelines had the power to save a life. Standing at the front of the cabin, she held up the seatbelt. "Ladies and gentlemen, for your safety, please fasten your seatbelt by inserting the metal fitting into the buckle and tighten by pulling on the strap. To release, lift the top portion of the buckle." She demonstrated with practiced ease, her hands confident. Next came the oxygen mask. Sarah's voice was firm but calm. "In case of cabin pressure loss, oxygen masks will drop from the panel above you. Pull the mask toward you, secure it over your nose and mouth, and breathe normally. Always secure your own mask before helping others." A few passengers finally looked up, realizing the importance of her words. Sarah noticed a mother with a toddler, her brow furrowed in worry. With a kind smile, Sarah added, "Mothers, don't worry. Once you put yours on, you'll be strong enough to help your little one right away." Then came the life vest demonstration. She held it up for all to see, pointing out how to secure it over the head, adjust the straps, and inflate it only after leaving the aircraft. "Remember," she emphasized, "the vest inflates by pulling these red tabs or blowing into the tubes. Please, don't inflate it inside the cabin." Around her, flight attendants repeated the demonstration along the aisles, ensuring all passengers had a clear view. For many, it still felt like routine, but for Sarah, it was her mission to make sure that if the worst happened, no one would say, "I didn't know what to do." As she wrapped up, she finished with a reassuring smile. "We hope you never need to use these safety features, but knowing them keeps everyone safe. Thank you for your attention." The plane rumbled as the engine started. Some passengers returned to their phones, but others, especially first-time travelers, sat a little straighter, feeling more secure after listening. For Sarah, that small shift of awareness was victory. The flight was ready for takeoff. What passengers didn't know was that soon, those very safety guidelines would matter more than they realized. The plane lifted smoothly from the runway, city lights shrinking into twinkling dots below. Sarah moved gracefully down the aisle, checking seatbelts and stowing stray bags. The passengers relaxed into their routines. Some dozed, others watched movies, and children leaned excitedly toward the windows. For the first hour, everything was uneventful. Then, over the Atlantic, the captain's voice came on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been advised of some unexpected turbulence ahead. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts." Sarah's practiced instincts kicked in. With a firm but calm tone, she walked down the aisle, reminding people, "Seatbelts on, trays up, keep belongings secure." A businessman frowned at her. "It's just turbulence. I've flown 100 times, I don't need the lecture." Sarah leaned closer, her voice low but steady. "Sir, turbulence is unpredictable. For your safety, please keep your belt fastened." He sighed, but complied. Moments later, the aircraft jolted violently. Drinks spilled, overhead bins rattled, and passengers gasped. Sarah held onto the seatback, her training taking over. The captain's voice came again, more urgent this time. "Cabin crew, take your seats." Sarah quickly sat, buckled in, and demonstrated calm through her steady breathing. Around her, passengers gripped armrests, some praying under their breath. A sudden drop made the cabin erupt in startled cries. In that moment, Sarah's safety briefing replayed in everyone's mind. Passengers who had listened were better prepared, seatbelts tight, trays stowed, nothing loose to fly around. The turbulence lasted 15 long minutes. When it finally eased, passengers looked shaken. One elderly woman across the aisle was trembling, clutching her rosary. Sarah unbuckled, knelt beside her, and offered reassurance. "You did perfectly, ma'am. The seatbelt kept you safe." Later, as calm returned, Sarah noticed the same businessman she'd spoken to earlier. He caught her eye, nodding silently in thanks. That small acknowledgement meant everything, proof that her persistence mattered. Just as the passengers began to relax again, a new issue arose. A loud beep echoed from the back of the plane. A passenger had fainted. Sarah rushed over with her crew. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, checking his pulse. She quickly instructed, "Bring the oxygen tank." Within moments, the man was revived with supplemental oxygen. The incident reminded everyone on board why the guidelines existed, not just for rare emergencies, but for everyday safety. As Sarah secured the equipment, she looked around at the passengers. Their faces were more serious now, their eyes following her every move. No one was ignoring her anymore. The plane continued its journey, but the night was far from over. The flight approached its destination after a long, tense night. Passengers had endured turbulence, a medical scare, and hours of uncertainty. But now, as dawn painted the horizon in shades of gold, the cabin felt different, quieter, more attentive, more aware. Sarah prepared the passengers for landing. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are making our final descent. Please ensure your seatbacks are upright, tray tables secured, and seatbelts fastened." Her voice carried both authority and calm reassurance. She walked through the aisles, checking each row. Families with children followed instructions closely, remembering her earlier demonstration. Business travelers who once brushed off the rules now sat ready, belts snug and electronics stowed. Even the nervous first-time flyers looked calmer, trusting that they knew what to do. The plane jolted slightly as it hit a pocket of crosswind. Gasps echoed through the cabin, but this time passengers didn't panic. They sat steady, following Sarah's earlier guidance. One child whispered to his mother, "Just like she said, seatbelt on." The landing gear deployed with a heavy thud, and the plane descended toward the runway. Sarah braced in her jump seat, her eyes sharp, but her demeanor calm. The wheels touched down with a screech of rubber on asphalt. For a brief second, the cabin shook violently as the plane slowed, but then, silence. A wave of relief swept over everyone. Applause broke out. Passengers clapped, some even cheering. Sarah smiled, not because of the applause, but because she knew what it meant. They understood. They had seen firsthand why safety guidelines mattered. As passengers disembarked, many stopped to thank her. The elderly woman whispered, "I'll never forget what you taught us." The businessman who once resisted admitted, "You were right. I'll always listen from now on." Sarah's heart swelled with quiet pride. For her, this was the reward of the job, not just guiding people through flights, but teaching them lessons that could one day save their lives. Later, as the crew gathered in the galley to debrief, one of the junior attendants asked, "Sarah, how do you stay so calm when people don't listen?" She smiled. "Because one day when it really matters, they'll remember. That's why we keep repeating, even if only a few pay attention. It only takes one moment for safety to become everything." The story of that flight would stay with the passengers long after they left the airport. To them, the safety demonstration was no longer a routine they could ignore. It was a lifeline. As Sarah walked off the aircraft into the morning light, she glanced back at the plane she had helped guide safely through the night. Another journey complete, another lesson taught. And somewhere among those passengers, she knew, someone would remember her words the next time they flew. Always secure your seatbelt. Always listen. Safety is not just routine, it's survival.